So after last night's realization about spirituality again, it's a beautiful unfolding, because I'm beginning to see how tools are needed to get you from one place to another, and that's all they're there for. They're not to be nothing is to be held as absolute. And I just sort of mentioned to a friend about spirituality and that I'm transcending it somehow. And he said that there's an old Zen saying that you need to build a boat to cross the water, but then it would be foolish to carry the boat with you on land. And it's so beautiful because I can really feel that. And I think the video I did the other day about there's no truth, and what's needed for the truth is needed at the time to later realize that it's false. But it's needed to get you to a specific destination, to when you realize that it kind of dissolves behind you. And I'm really feeling when I'm tapping into that is that this uncovering is, I'm able to see now a spirituality as like a tool. And so if I believe there's conditioning still there within Jody, which I believe there is still, I can use it as a tool to unravel myself from it, or to alter that conditioning, or to transcend the conditioning, to not allow it to be controlling how I like to be. Well, the goal, I feel, is to become active, not reactive. And when that has to do with non-duality, in that we're lived and there's no doer, I get it. I do. But the jury is really still out for me, because it feels like it's transcending even that. And I know often people get to that point and it's like, oh, it's like throwing your hands up and going, well, there's no one here to do anything, so nothing is nothing. And I know I say this a lot because it's really something that I'm obviously working through to want to bring it up all the time, because that's what I do when I watch these back and stuff. It's like I gather insight from hearing and speaking these things, which is why I share them, because I may as well. Yeah. And then I'm listening to Osho, his book, The Search, I think it's called. And it's interesting how you find these things when you're ready for them, because the insights over the last few days is that, like, it feels like enlightenment, or the idea of enlightenment, is a concept in itself, because you can't actually achieve it, because there's no it to be achieved. It's like every time you grasp the idea of it, it dissolves. And I'm beginning to think that that's infinite. And so it's this never-ending unfolding that just continues. as for what reality is, the jury's really still out on that too. I think it's just like, there's so many concepts, ideas, and the fact that, even the insight from inside is changing as I go along. It's like the boat thing, like that's created and led me to that, to have this belief, to then later realize that I don't need that belief anymore, so it disappears. And it's just phenomenal. This is why it's like, so that book, he just said something about how everyone is, when you're really who you are, a lot of people won't get there because you're alone in who you are, because who you are is unlike anybody else. And it's very interesting because it's almost like we're sort of like from schooling or whatever. We want to fit in. We want friends. We want to be around people. We want to be like people. We want people to agree with what we think and feel and act and do, and be supported by others. And it's just like love that I've said in the past. For me, I've really realized that I can't want any of these things from anybody. If I want them from an external thing, it's because I'm not giving it to myself. This is how I view it anyway. And so ultimately, I don't need to worry about anyone else or how they're doing anything, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't, and it doesn't matter how they view me in what I'm doing, because they're not me, and they never will be. And no one, there's so many like groups and identities, like even non-duality, like there's the whole unconditional, whatever it's called. It's like a whole movement of people that have watched the same thing and they're just copying each other. And it's like, I don't even think they realize, and it's perfect because that's where they're supposed to be at their journey. But, I don't feel like that's where I'm supposed to be, so I'm still going. So it's really interesting and beautiful, because it's this realization and opening up that I'm not that. I'm not that. I'm no thing. I'm no thing. I'm no particular thing doing a particular thing. Yeah. All of it's just constructed identity. It's almost like just be whoever you want to be in the moment of whatever the moment is presenting. And like with purpose and things like that, I'm beginning to feel like if you can just get yourself out of the way, your conditioning or your character on autopilot, to the point where you can just do whatever makes you feel good at the time, the jury's out on the being lived. And sometimes I can feel it. It's just like, do this, so I do it. But other times, I don't know. I don't know. And I guess, there's power in that too, not knowing, because if you know, it seems to dissolve into the, everything contradicts each other so that there's nothing there. Yeah, it's beautiful. Heartbreakingly beautiful. Never-ending journey.